We're keeping 10 for ourselves to find more.
5,
10.
6,
10.
9. And the cat back.
20. I keep the cat, we get you the guns, we fight together. Say yes.
Yes.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and reviewing episode 712 of The Walking Dead, Say Yes. That being said, spoilers of everything in the show up to season 7 episode 12, and let's jump right into it. So this episode mainly focuses on Rick and Michonne out on a supply run looking for guns, while Rosita complains about needing to do the same thing back at Alexandria. Although this episode could be considered as, a filler episode, I really did enjoy it. I feel like it had the perfect amount of new scenery, action, and character progression to make it very entertaining to sit through. The episode starts out with a strange montage of Rick and Michonne scavenging a few abandoned houses as they continue their road in their van. It's actually the full version of the sneak peek shown last week during Talking Dead, and I'm actually surprised that they kept it all the same considering how weird it feels to watch. Either way, they make a few stops along the road trip as they start hooking up in the back of their van. I guess that this shows that supply runs really can be enjoyable if you're with the right people. So Rick stays up all night on watch, letting Michonne get some sleep, and she thanks him for it. She then asks Rick if today will be the winning day, leaving Rick to respond with uncertainty, but either way he points out that they need more batteries for that radio that Jesus stole back in 708. After a few days of running around scavenging scraps, they conveniently come across a group of saviors playing golf. We automatically know that they're saviors because we can vaguely hear Negan speaking over the radio about Fat Joey, so Rick and Michonne plan their attack. Now I actually find this slightly confusing as it remains unclear to me. Did they end up killing those saviors playing golf, or did they just somehow rob them? It cut back to them in their van with the loot, so is it implied that they took them out for their supplies? I feel like whether they killed them or if they just stole from them, we should have seen Rick and Michonne sneaking around their truck, so it was a bit off-putting just to have them back in the van again. As Michonne drives the van, she suggests going back to Alexandria while Rick convinces her to go out just a bit further. He's enjoying the alone time with her so much that he just wants the good vibes to continue for a bit longer. Rick ends up nodding off due to staying up the night before, but eventually Michonne stops for a break in the woods again. She notices a deer and actually wakes up Rick while grabbing her silenced pistol. As Rick catches up to her, he jokes about owing Michonne a deer, referencing episode 704 when he actually made her give up the one she found to Negan. Sadly, the deer runs off by the time Rick and Michonne get their act together, but the deer did lead them to the main location of the episode, a carnival built at what looks like a school. This leads us to another preview that was released for the episode, showing Rick and Michonne approaching a fence to get inside. Now I've actually broken down this scene before, so sorry if this sounds a bit repetitive, but Rick knocks on the fence to alert any walkers on the other side, and one actually takes his bait. This walker is shown to have a US military outfit on, along with a gun still on his back. This shows great potential of there still being more guns out there, along with the fact that Rick finds all those empty shells on the other side of the fence, implying that there's more where that came from. Most places that you run into during the zombie apocalypse have already been looted at least once or twice, leaving almost nothing remaining to find. This place, on the other hand, hasn't been looted once. And so with great vibes following them, Rick and Michonne continue to the roof of the building, overseeing how the entire carnival is filled with roamers that are still carrying guns and everything. This place seems to have been completely untouched ever since it all went to shit, whenever that was. Whether this place went to shit during an original outbreak, or if it became a small community that just didn't work out, the carnival ended up getting overrun with walkers, and it hasn't been touched since. This means that all of the supplies hoarded by all those people who didn't make it are probably still there. Rick and Michonne are shown laughing and smiling as they show relief over this find, claiming that this is going to be the place that solves all of their problems. Michonne takes a celebratory shot at one of those milk jug shooting games within the carnival, actually hitting her second shot, proving that her aim is slowly getting better. Although they warn each other about not staying up there on the roof too long, they end up overstaying their welcome, shown by the floor beneath them collapsing, causing them to fall through the ceiling of the building. They both seem to be alright down below, and on top of that, I don't think they could have fallen into a better room. This room reveals crates upon crates of supplies, still packaged and unused. I really enjoy seeing a smile on both of their faces for once, as they're definitely enjoying each other's company along with this incredible find. They were originally laughing due to the fall of the ceiling, but after seeing all of the packaged up crates, they almost become hysterical. And so as Rick and Michonne wait out the night in that same building, they start munching out on the food that they found around some lit candles. Apparently this scene was motivated from an old 1980s movie called 16 Candles, and I think it's really cool how they made this little makeshift dinner table to eat their newfound loot together for a meal. As Michonne starts talking about what they're going to have to do to take out Negan, she starts thinking about what they'll have to do to retain society afterwards. She brings up Negan and how he declared the world order to be his, and that after he's gone, someone will need to essentially take his place and learn how to maintain the world order for them properly, sustaining it on the fair, civil, humane way that they all wish it could be ran on. Although Rick laughs at the idea, Michonne insists that he should be the one to step up above all the communities and help tie them all together. The reason why Rick doesn't like this idea is because he doesn't want to lead everyone alone, he wants to lead everyone with Michonne alongside him. This further strengthens the bond between them, helping create the idea that they are a team together no matter what. So the next morning, Rick and Michonne head out towards a field of walkers to assess the situation and figure out the best plan of attack. That being said, I love the way Michonne briefly distracts the walkers by banging that dumpster or electrical box or whatever it was so Rick can run over to the car. This is the car with the broken windshield that we saw him driving in the previews, and it's funny how we find out that the reason why the windshield is broken is because a zombie is actually stuck in it. So as Michonne takes out all of those zombies surrounding her, like a complete badass, she actually ends up getting a crazy collateral headshot with her sword. And as Rick struggles to pull out this damn military zombie that's stuck in the car, he literally has to pull it apart in order to get it unjammed. So Michonne catches up to Rick, and as they start pushing the car towards the gap in the fence, something incredibly random and inconvenient happens. A walker with a gun still strapped around him actually ends up getting his gun to go off, shooting in the direction of Team Richonne. This inconveniently attracts a lot of attention from the walkers as their car gets completely surrounded. Michonne ends up jumping in the truck while Rick hides under the steering wheel. They have a brief conversation consulting each other over their failed plan, but I won't give them a hard time for it. I mean, who could have predicted that that gun on that random walker would have went off? So as Michonne and Rick climb up out of the sunroof, they hop over that blue fence to safety. They decide to start taking out as many walkers as they can before it collapses due to pressure, leading them to run away as the horde of zombies follows behind them. Rick and Michonne end up knocking over one of those test your strength machines, which acts as a small barrier, slowing down the zombies even more. As Rick and Michonne slowly keep backing up, training the zombies, it honestly made me laugh as it kinda reminded me of Call of Duty zombies. But just like Call of Duty zombies, you end up making mistakes when you get overconfident. Although they have the perfect opportunity to run away back to their safe zone filled with packaged food and candles, they decide to get a little arrogant and tackle it all at once. So they split up and go to two different amusement rides, Michonne going to the slides while Rick goes to the Ferris wheel. They stand behind those mini fences, using them as another perfect thing to camp behind and take out the zombies one by one. The main theme of their encounters with the zombies in this episode is the fact of how casual they are with them. They're so used to taking out walkers that they're confident enough to not really see the danger in them anymore that most people would. This is also shown as they even yell at each other, asking them how they're doing, as they casually count to each other how many walkers they have left. Right when Rick is about to start taking out the rest of the walkers on his side, he notices the deer from earlier. As a split-second decision, Rick starts climbing up the Ferris wheel in efforts to try and line up a shot with the damn deer. That's right, on top of everything that's going on, he even wants to add icing on the cake by hunting a damn deer for Michonne. That all backfires though as he looks over to notice a second horde of walkers approaching the deer, leaving Rick to lower his pistol. There's no point in wasting your ammo to kill a deer if the deer is just gonna die in vain anyways getting eaten by walkers, right? Anyways, Rick climbing on the Ferris wheel as if it's a jungle gym wasn't the best idea, considering that it probably hasn't been inspected since before the zombie apocalypse, shown by it breaking and dropping Rick right on his ass. This turns out to be the moment where he drops his pistol and frantically scurries to pick it up again. He starts shooting off into the crowd of zombies, but by the time Michonne gets to him, he looks completely mauled by them. Michonne just stands there in shock, dropping her sword and losing all will to fight. Imagine how tragic it would have been if this was actually their last day together, their last time sleeping together, or their last meal together. They were just talking about the possibilities of leading an entire network of communities together the night before, and now this. But enough of imagining what could have been. Turns out Rick was hiding in the crate shown behind him as he comes out just in time to spring Michonne back into action. He throws Michonne her sword literally the same way that Negan gets thrown Lucille during a recent moment in the comics, and I definitely enjoyed noticing the comparison, whether it was intentional or not. So as Michonne and Rick work together to take out the remaining walkers surrounding them, they run and hug each other afterwards in thankfulness that they're both still breathing. It turns out that what Michonne thought Rick was being mauled was actually the deer that Rick was trying to catch for her. After their heartwarming reunion, they go ahead and start scavenging all of the weapons left over on all the walkers' bodies. Turns out that this carnival of hell was worth looting after all, and thank God considering all the crap they just went through. Speaking of which, I know some people knock on The Walking Dead for conveniently always giving our survivors what they need, and I do kind of agree to a certain extent, but I enjoy the way they went about it this time. The carnival was really interesting to see, and I really appreciated the different types of scenery. We've seen so many zombies killed in the woods that the show almost begs to be taken to a different background, and this colorful carnival is definitely a valid answer to that issue. On their way back with the supplies, Rick stops the van due to noticing how uneasy Michonne is. This is where Rick gives another one of his amazing speeches, this particular one being about their future.
What we did back there, what we're doing now, making a future for Judith, for Glenn and Maggie's baby, fighting the fight. That's living. You showed me that.
This speech was teased ever since the mid-season break, so I've been looking forward to it for quite a while. Essentially, Rick is getting across the idea to Michonne that although they mean so much to each other, what they're doing is so much more than that. What they're doing is so beyond the idea of just keeping themselves safe, it's ensuring safety for the future of everyone that they know. He's saying that even if they lost each other, if they accomplish their goal, it'll be worth it as it'll secure a comfortable future.
You can lose me. No. Yes, you can. I can lose you. We can lose our friends, people we love. It's not about us anymore. It's about a future.
Rick also knows that him and Michonne are both strong enough that they could hypothetically lead alone without the other, if it were to come to that. When she doesn't believe in herself being able to lead without him, he convinces her by saying that she led him to all of this potential. Without Michonne coming to Rick and helping convince him in 708 that this was the correct action to take, he would have never realized the things that he's realizing now. He wouldn't have been led to the kingdom, he wouldn't have made allies with the junkyard, and he wouldn't have found all the supplies that they found at the carnival. I already loved the relationship between Rick and Michonne to bits, and this episode honestly made me respect them as a team even more than I already did. The more that I see them working together, the more that I see how they're so like-minded and able to succeed together. Beyond that, I'm so amazed by the chemistry that the actors have managed to pull off between each other as well. One more thing that I'd like to add in about the scene is the fact that Rick brought up Glenn again. I love it when old characters or situations get brought up, especially in ways that relate back to the current story, even pushing it forward. Rick, of course, references the fact that Glenn saved him in the tank back during the first 2 episodes of the show, and then admits the guilt that he feels over not being able to save Glenn himself. With Rick and Michonne's supply run over and done with, before we continue, I actually wanted to step aside for a moment and talk about Rosita and Tara. So this scene was actually sneak peek released before the episode, so there's not much more I can say about this scene that hasn't already been said. We'll still run through it though. So Tara approaches Rosita on her porch to help her take out her scars, but by the time she gets there, Rosita is already done. This just makes Tara feel awkward as she just wants to help, but Rosita wants none of it. They get into an argument about finding guns for the junkyard group as Rosita complains about not being able to sit around and wait. Is this possible foreshadowing for Tara to give up the Oceanside? In my previous videos I mentioned how Rosita could be unintentionally peer pressuring Tara to give up the Oceanside, and it definitely makes her think about it at least. We know this because after Rosita walks away from Tara, Tara ends up watching over Judith back at Alexandria, and while she's babysitting, she vents out to Judith her dilemma of whether or not to give up the existence of the Oceanside to her people. She does this by first giving Judith the bracelet given to her by Sydney, along with talking about Sydney and how she stuck her neck out for her. Now normally this is where I dissect the dialogue from the scene, but Tara literally explains her situation about just as well as I would have, as I completely agree with her entire train of thought throughout the scene.
If I say something, Rick won't leave there without their guns. If we could even get close enough, they'll start firing and we'll fire back. I mean, they should just fight with us. The Saviors killed their fathers and their sons and their brothers. They won't want to fight with us. They just want to hide. So they'll just fight us.
I really wish that the Oceanside could just fight with Rick against the Saviors. Revenge would give the Oceanside every reason to join forces, and if they did manage to take out the Saviors, the people of the Oceanside wouldn't have to worry about hiding from them anymore. The Oceanside could become a regular functioning community alongside the Kingdom, the Hilltop, or Alexandria. By the way, I really enjoy how the person that she finally vents to is Judith of all people. This is such a Tara thing to do, and I'm glad to see that we get more of Judith of it as well. Ever since the show has brought her to Alexandria, people have feared of Judith not being shown enough due to lack of danger. This is clearly not the case, as she's been shown quite a lot of times this season in general. So while Tara is off venting to Judith, Rosita decides to go out looking for more guns on her own. We watch her come across a randomly abandoned house in the woods, which is where she finds that horrible looking walker that reminds me of the well walker back in season 2. I thought that Rosita might have gone off to the Oceanside in this episode, but it looks like that isn't the case, as she just randomly went off looking for guns. And I always thought that was a possibility, but I was really just hoping for some conflict with Oceanside. In the abandoned house, she thought that she had finally found a gun, but it ends up just being a toy, shown by the red cap at the end of the barrel. Rosita throws the toy gun out of anger and continues on. She eventually gives up looking and ends up going back to Alexandria, complaining to Father Gabriel about how she didn't find a single gun after searching all day. Rosita continues her ranting by also blaming the kidnapping of Eugene on Father Gabriel, along with the deaths of Spencer and Olivia. For those of you who don't remember, Father Gabriel actually tried convincing Rosita not to shoot Negan back in 708. And this actually worked, and she wasn't going to go through with it, which is why we just saw her sitting on the porch when Spencer walks up to her on his way to go talk to Negan himself. It wasn't until after Rosita saw Spencer die that she flew off the handle and pulled out her gun. And what Rosita is saying here is that if she wouldn't have listened to Father Gabriel, she would have gone and shot Negan long before Spencer had even had the chance to go talk to him, meaning that none of that would have potentially ever happened. What Father Gabriel tells Rosita here just continues my inspiration to create that redemption video for him, as he's honestly become very interesting and entertaining to watch on screen. Gabriel tells her that she can just sit there blaming him for the fact that she's alive all she wants, but he motivates her to do something with that life that she still has. He mentions that even he can tell that Rosita is still useful, and that she should push herself to her full potential. And so, to conclude this scene, he tells Rosita that anything is possible until your heart stops beating, which ties everything back to 708 once again, considering that the name of that episode was Heart Still Beating. With that all out of the way, let's just go ahead and jump forward a day or so to when Rick and group head back to the junkyard to deliver the guns that they promised. Although Jadis and her strange ways of handling things can seem a bit unrealistic, I'm actually starting to grow somewhat of a liking towards her. I don't quite know if I trust her as much as Rick is right now, but I hope that we get some sort of a backstory to her and find out what exactly her deal is to at least help make them feel somewhat more believable. Although Jadis is happy with their progress, she mentions that she needs nearly double the amount of guns to feel confident enough to help fight alongside Alexandria. Rosita of course freaks out over this, demanding that they just take their guns back, but after some bartering between Rick and Jadis, they decide that Rick will find the guns Jadis requests, but only if Rick can take back 20 of the 63 guns to help them find more. And something that made me laugh here is the fact that as a part of the bartering, Jadis mentioned that she wanted the cat statue back that Rick took to give to Michonne back in 610. Luckily, Rick and Michonne get to keep their cat statue, as Jadis seems to respect Rick for showing confidence, and she just threw that in there to kinda just put him off place. As they watch the junkyard group take all of the guns that they agree upon, Michonne starts joking to Rick about the way that they talk, as she tells him that she's ready to go out and find more guns in a few days.
You get a few more days before what happens next.
A few more days?
That's right. We'll find more.
figure it out soon. In a few more days.
Back at Alexandria, we see Tara waiting for Rick at his place. He asks her why she came by, and she says that there's something that she needs to tell him. I'm kinda pissed that they just yanked the chain from us here instead of showing us the rest of the conversation, because I've really been on the edge of my seat just waiting for that conversation between Tara and Rick about the Oceanside. That being said, Rick mentions how he was looking for Rosita, and Tara says that she's probably just out looking for more guns. That, however, is not the case, as she's actually paying a little visit to the hilltop. She immediately makes a V-line for the graves of Glenn and Abraham, which is where she meets up with Sasha. Now, Sasha just assumes that Rosita is there to pay respects for Abraham, but she's actually there to ask Sasha for help. Turns out Rosita is going rogue, but it's not going to be to attack the Oceanside like I thought, or at least not yet. Sasha instantly knows what Rosita is going to ask her once she mentions that she needs her help, and all that Sasha has to say in response is that she wants to be able to take the shot. I don't think Rosita could have made this any more convenient for Sasha, as she actually brought along a sniper rifle for Sasha that Rick and Michonne found. So I've actually done a predictions video focusing on the possible fate of Sasha, and it looks like the storylines are starting to possibly connect. I definitely recommend going and checking out that video after this one, but warning of possible spoilers for the rest of Season 7B, as my predictions are based out of certain events during the comic books. Anyways guys, that brings us to the end of the episode, so how did you feel about it? Leave any opinions in the comments section below. But that's pretty much it for me guys. If you've enjoyed anything I've said today, I definitely appreciate a like on the video, as it really does help my channel grow and reach other people. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.